The sun was a pale yellow disk hanging low over the jagged mountains of Arcan 9. Its light fell softly over the sprawling alien city, casting long shadows across the crystalline towers that shimmered like glass in the wind. The city had been thriving for centuries, its people known for their intelligence and unique ability to communicate through light pulses along their skin. Yet today, that same city was on the edge of disaster. A violent tremor had ripped through the ground just hours ago, leaving massive cracks along the roads and shattering the delicate crystal domes that protected the city from the planet's harsh atmosphere. Panic spread quickly. Alien citizens ran in every direction, their glowing forms flickering with fear. Some tried to lift debris off their friends, but the falling rubble was too heavy. Others shouted, but their voices carried only a soft hum in the thin air. Among the chaos, a group of humans had arrived earlier in the week for an exploration mission. They were scientists, engineers, and military personnel sent to study Arcan 9's unique ecosystem and architecture. To most of the aliens, humans were strange creatures, two-legged, soft-skinned, and full of energy that often seemed reckless. Yet in times of need, humans proved to be far braver than anyone expected. Lieutenant Mara Holloway was one of these humans. She had short, messy brown hair that stuck to her forehead with sweat and dust. Her uniform was scratched and stained from hours of climbing rubble and carrying injured citizens. But her eyes, sharp and determined, reflected a calm that steadied those around her. "Keep moving. Everyone needs to get to the safe zone," Myra shouted over the sounds of crumbling buildings and distant screams. She lifted a heavy piece of broken crystal, holding it above her head just long enough for a small alien child to crawl out from beneath it. The child, glowing faintly with fear, looked up at her with wide, luminous eyes. Myra smiled briefly, giving a small thumbs up before sliding the debris back down gently. Nearby, her teammate, Engineer Jonas Riker, was trying to stabilize a cracked support beam over a collapsed corridor. "Mara, this section could fall any second. We need to get out." "No," Mara interrupted, her voice steady. "There's someone in there. I can hear them." Jonas hesitated, worry crossing his face. The tremor had left the city dangerous, and every second spent inside the rubble was a gamble. But Mara didn't hesitate. She crawled into the narrow space, moving with careful precision. Her human muscles, trained from years of survival drills, allowed her to squeeze through gaps the aliens could not even imagine fitting through. Inside the corridor, dust and broken glass filled the air. The weak light from Mara's helmet illuminated the curved walls, showing the twisted remains of what had once been a bright, glowing city passage. Then she saw her, a small alien trapped under a heavy shard of crystal. Lyra, the young alien, blinked her glowing eyes at Mara, trembling and unable to speak. Mara carefully assessed the weight of the crystal and the position of the beams around her. She knew if she moved too quickly, the shard could crush Lyra completely. Taking a deep breath, she placed herself strategically, using a lever tool to lift the shard inch by inch. It groaned under the pressure, and small cracks began to widen in the surrounding walls. Mara's heart raced, but she didn't let fear take over. She whispered softly, "You're going to be okay, just stay calm." Lyra's glow flickered in response, a sign of panic slowly fading. With a final effort, Mara lifted the shard high enough to slide Lyra out. The small alien's tiny limbs shook, but she scrambled free and landed safely in Mara's arms. Mara held her gently, making sure the alien was unharmed. "See, that wasn't so bad," Mara said with a tired smile. Lyra blinked at her, unsure how to express gratitude in words. Her skin pulsed faintly, a soft blue, which Mara learned from her training meant relief. As they made their way back, Mara guided Lyra through the collapsing corridors, jumping over cracks and ducking under falling debris. Behind them, more humans and aliens were working together, moving rubble, creating makeshift paths, and helping the injured. Mara realized that in times of danger, the difference between species didn't matter. Courage, empathy, and quick thinking did. Finally, they reached an open courtyard where the rest of the survivors had gathered. Relief swept through the crowd as they saw Lyra safely in human hands. A small cheer arose, but it was quickly swallowed by the ominous rumble of another tremor. Mara didn't wait. She scanned the area, noting unstable pillars and cracked walls. "Everyone, move towards the left exit," she instructed, pointing to a pathway that led to a reinforced area the humans had prepared in case of emergencies. Some aliens hesitated, unsure if the humans' directions were safe. Mara's voice carried authority, backed by the confidence of someone who had been through countless dangerous situations. Slowly, the crowd followed, trusting her instincts. As they moved, Mara noticed Lyra looking around curiously. Unlike other aliens, Lyra seemed fascinated by the humans' tools and devices. The small drones flying above, the harnesses humans wore to lift debris, the lights and sensors scanning the area for survivors. Mara smiled. "We humans like our gadgets," she said lightly, hoping to calm the young alien's nerves. Lyra blinked, a faint glow of amusement passing through her skin. Hours passed. The tremors became less frequent, though the city remained unstable. Human engineers worked alongside aliens to shore up the remaining structures. Mara, exhausted but vigilant, continued to coordinate rescue efforts, checking every corner, making sure no one was left behind. Finally, as night fell on Arkan 9, the situation stabilized. Fires were extinguished, the injured were tended to, and the survivors began to gather in the reinforced safe zone. Lyra sat quietly, still shaken but alive. Mara approached, kneeling to be at eye level. "You're safe now," she said gently. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." Lyra's glow softened in response, the alien's way of showing trust and appreciation. Mara didn't fully understand it, but she knew the message was clear. That night, while humans and aliens worked side by side to rebuild what they could, Mara found a moment of solitude. She looked up at the pale, yellow sun sinking behind the mountains. The rescue had been exhausting, and she felt the weight of every life she had saved and every life she had not been able to reach. Yet in the quiet, she felt a strange sense of pride. Humans were not invincible, but they were brave, persistent, and capable of acts of extraordinary compassion. And sometimes that was enough to save a life, and maybe, just maybe, to change the course of an entire civilization. Lyra, watching Mara from a distance, felt a spark of admiration and wonder. She had seen bravery before in her own people, but this human, this Mara, was different. There was something in the way she moved, spoke, and risked everything for others that made Lyra's heart pulse with awe. Lyra didn't know the human's name yet, but she would remember her face, her courage, and the way she had turned chaos into hope. For Mara, the night ended quietly. She sat against a wall, helmet removed, eyes tired but alert. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this was just the beginning. Arkan 9 had shown her a world in crisis, and humans had stepped into the unknown to help. It was dangerous, yes, but it was also the reason why humanity was special. They did not shrink from danger. They faced it with heart, skill, and an unshakable will to protect others. And far across the courtyard, Lyra's glow shone a little brighter, a silent promise that one day she would repay the courage of the human who had saved her. The weeks following the tremor were quiet but tense. The city of Arkan 9 had begun to rebuild, its citizens working tirelessly under the guidance of human engineers and military personnel. The glow of the aliens' skin pulsed in patterns that conveyed emotions: relief, worry, determination. To the humans, it was both beautiful and fascinating, a living language of light. Lyra had been recovering in a small, safe dwelling near the reinforced zone. Her body had healed quickly, but the memories of the collapse haunted her. She could still see the heavy shard of crystal falling toward her, feel the rush of fear that nearly consumed her. But most of all, she remembered the human who had saved her, Lieutenant Mara Holloway. Every day, Lyra asked questions about humans to anyone willing to answer. What were they like? Why did they risk themselves for others? How could someone so small, so fragile compared to the towering structures of Arkan 9, hold so much courage? Her elders and fellow citizens described Myra in awe. "She moved through the rubble like she was part of it," said one. "Her strength wasn't in her arms, but in her mind and heart." Lyra listened, glowing brighter with every story. Finally, she made a decision. She would meet Myra herself. She wanted to understand the human who had faced death and chaos with such calm and determination. The opportunity came sooner than she expected. Mara and her team were overseeing the reconstruction of a collapsed central plaza. Aliens and humans worked side by side, moving debris, setting up supports, and examining weak points in the remaining structures. Mara, always alert, noticed every detail, every crack, every possible hazard. Lyra approached cautiously. Her skin pulsed nervously, flickering between blue and green. The humans were tall, strange, and covered in dust, their eyes sharp and fast-moving. Yet Mara stood out. She didn't seem hurried or afraid. Instead, there was a calm strength about her, a way of carrying herself that made Lyra's fear fade, replaced by curiosity. "Excuse me," Lyra said softly, her voice melodic but quiet, almost like a hum. Mara turned, her eyes locking onto the glowing alien. She recognized her immediately. "Lyra," she said, smiling faintly, "I'm glad you're safe." Lyra's glow pulsed brighter, almost like a heartbeat of excitement. I wanted to see you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I wanted to understand." Mara gestured for her to come closer. "You've been safe here for weeks, but now it's time to see what we're doing together." Lyra stepped forward carefully, watching Mara move among the workers, pointing out weak spots in the rubble and giving instructions with calm authority. The alien was amazed. Humans were not strong in the way her people were. They could not lift massive crystal shards with ease, and their bodies were fragile. Yet Mara had done what seemed impossible, saving countless lives during the collapse and now leading a reconstruction effort with precision and care. Lyra followed, observing quietly. She noticed how Mara spoke to humans and aliens alike, her tone never condescending, her instructions clear and kind. She noticed how the humans responded, trusting her guidance, respecting her judgment. Lyra realized that Mara's true strength was not physical. It was in her mind, her courage, and the way she made others feel safe and capable even in the face of danger. As the sun climbed higher, Mara took a brief break. She removed her helmet, wiping sweat from her forehead, and sat on a nearby block of rubble. Lyra hesitated, then stepped closer. "I wanted to tell you," Lyra began, unsure of the words. Her glowing skin flickered nervously. "What you did, it was incredible. I have never seen such bravery." Mara looked at her, her tired eyes softening. "It was not just me," she said gently. "Everyone was helping, humans and aliens alike. But yes, I did what I could. I couldn't ignore anyone in danger." Lyra's glow brightened even more, shifting to a gentle, warm blue. She stepped closer, feeling a mix of awe and admiration. "You are unlike any human I have heard of. You shine differently, not like your machines or tools, but inside, I cannot explain it." Mara chuckled softly, shaking her head. "That's kind of you to say. I don't think humans are perfect. We make mistakes and sometimes we fail, but we try, and sometimes that trying is enough to save someone." Lyra's pulse quickened. She had been listening to stories, seeing humans in research labs or from afar, but now she understood. Humans were not just creatures of flesh and weakness. They were capable of acts that inspired awe, that changed lives, that could save entire civilizations. And Mara was the perfect example. I want to learn from you," Lyra said, her glow flickering with determination. "I want to understand how humans can do what you did." Mara smiled faintly. "You already have a good start," she said. "The first lesson is courage. Not the kind that comes from strength or weapons, but the kind that comes from care. You save someone because you must, because you care, not because it's easy or safe." Lyra absorbed this in silence. Her pulse slowed, her glow calming to a steady rhythm. She realized that humans' greatest strength was their heart. They could be weak, they could be injured, they could fear, yet still they acted. This was something her people had never fully understood about humans. Over the next few days, Mara allowed Lyra to shadow her. They moved through partially collapsed areas, observing rescue operations, stabilizing weak structures, and helping those still trapped in minor rubble incidents. Lyra learned quickly, her alien agility and perception complementing Mara's human experience. Together, they worked seamlessly. Lyra began to see patterns in Mara's actions. She noticed the small gestures, the way she reassured an injured alien, the way she encouraged a frightened child to keep moving, the way she paused to carefully remove debris without causing harm. Mara did not rush. She measured her every action, thinking about outcomes, risks, and benefits. One evening, as the twin moons of Arcan 9 rose in the sky, casting soft silver light across the city, Lyra turned to Mara. "I never imagined a human could be like this. I mean not strong in the way our people are, but wise, careful, brave, and kind." Mara looked at her quietly. "Humans are different, yes. We don't have strength like some species, but we have something else. Something that can make a difference in ways strength alone cannot. And that is why I was able to save you." Lyra's glow pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. I want to be like you. Not exactly like you, but I want my people to see humans as you are. Brave, kind, wise, capable of more than we imagined." Mara placed a hand lightly on Lyra's shoulder, a gesture of trust and reassurance. Then help them see. Tell your people what you've learned. Show them what humans can do, not just with their hands, but with their hearts. Lyra nodded, her glow shining brighter than ever. She felt something she had never felt before. Inspiration, admiration, and a desire to change the way her people thought about humans. In that moment, she understood that the collapse of the city had done more than threaten life. It had revealed the truth about humanity, and she had witnessed it firsthand. As the night deepened, Mara and Lyra sat quietly together, watching the city's lights flicker in the distance. The reconstruction would take months, perhaps years, but the seeds of understanding had been planted. Lyra knew that the memory of this human and what she represented would stay with her forever. And somewhere deep in the quiet, Mara felt a similar understanding. Humans were far from perfect, yet in moments of crisis, they could shine brighter than any technology or power. They could inspire hope, courage, and admiration across the stars. And perhaps through these actions, humans could forge bonds that no alien or human had ever imagined possible. Lyra, the small alien who had once trembled under a falling shard of crystal, now glowed with determination and hope. She had seen the human who saved her, and she had understood. Her words the next day would carry weight, and the way she spoke of Mara would leave her people silent with awe. Because sometimes, bravery was not measured in strength. Sometimes it was measured in the heart. And in the heart of one human, Lieutenant Mara Holloway, the entire city had found a reason to hope. The city of Arcan 9 had slowly begun to regain its rhythm. The cracks in the crystalline towers were patched, the streets cleared of debris, and the citizens, though wary, began returning to their daily routines. The glow of their skin now pulsed not just with emotion, but with stories. Stories of survival, courage, and the strange, brave humans who had come from a distant world. Lyra had spent the past days shadowing Mara, learning not only about human ingenuity, but also about their way of thinking, their courage, and their care for others. Every action Mara had taken during the collapse was now vivid in Lyra's mind. Every decision, every calm word in the chaos had shaped the lives of countless aliens, saving them from despair or death. But Lyra knew that understanding Mara personally was not enough. She needed her people to understand. They had long underestimated humans, seeing them as fragile, strange, and incapable of true heroism. Lyra had seen firsthand that humans could shine differently than any other species. Their strength lay not in muscle or natural powers, but in heart, determination, and courage that refused to give up even in the face of danger. With a steady glow, Lyra called for a meeting in the main square. Word spread quickly through the city, and curiosity grew. Aliens gathered, their lights flickering with anticipation. They had heard whispers about the human who had saved Lyra, the one who had moved through collapsing buildings with unmatched bravery. Many had been skeptical. How could humans, soft and small compared to them, accomplish what they could not? Lyra stood at the center of the square. Her pulse flickered in controlled patterns, a signal of calm authority. She had prepared carefully. She wanted to convey not just admiration, but understanding, so that her people could see humans as she now saw them. "My people," Lyra began, her voice clear and melodic, "I want to tell you about a human who saved me, who saved others, and who showed me something we have never truly understood." The crowd hushed, curious eyes flickering in unison. "Her name is Mara Holloway. She came from another world, one far from ours, and yet she risked everything for us." The aliens murmured among themselves. Some flickered pale blue, indicating confusion. Others glowed orange, showing skepticism. Lyra raised a hand, signaling them to be silent. "I know many of you do not understand humans. We have thought them weak, fragile, unable to act in danger. But Mara, she is proof that humans are more than we imagined." Lyra paused, letting the words sink in. "During the collapse, when the city was falling apart, I was trapped. I feared I would die, and then Mara came. She moved through falling debris, calculated every risk, and saved me. Not because she had to, not because it was safe, but because she cared, because she saw others in danger and refused to turn away. That is human strength. That is bravery." A hush fell over the crowd. The elders, glowing deep purple with thought, exchanged silent pulses. The younger citizens' lights flickered rapidly, showing their surprise and awe. No one had spoken like this before, no one had described a human in such terms. Lyra continued, her glow brightening, reflecting the confidence she now carried. "I have followed her. I have watched her work. She does not have the strength of our limbs or the natural resilience of our bodies, but she has courage that surpasses any power. She does not act for glory, she does not seek reward. She acts because it is right, and that is why we survived. Mara, standing at the edge of the crowd, listened quietly. She had not expected such a public acknowledgement, and yet she did not feel uncomfortable. Instead, she felt a quiet pride, not in herself, but in the connection being built between humans and the aliens before her. Lyra stepped closer, her glow steady and bright. We can learn from her. We can learn that strength is not always physical. Courage is not measured by what you can lift or destroy, but by what you are willing to protect. Compassion, bravery, and determination, these are qualities humans possess in ways we have never understood until now. A young alien, barely larger than Lyra, spoke hesitantly, "But how can one human change so much? Can a single life really matter?" Lyra's glow pulsed warmly, a comforting rhythm. One life always matters. And one human, one act of courage can inspire hope, change perception, and build bonds between species. Mara's actions did not just save me, they have changed all of us. They have shown us that humans are capable of greatness in ways we did not expect. The crowd was silent. Even the most skeptical of the elders seemed struck by her words. Slowly, the realization began to take hold. The humans had not only saved lives, they had shown a new way of thinking, a new example of heroism, and a new possibility for cooperation across worlds. Lyra took a deep breath. Mara is here today. Let her show us what humans can do, not just through words, but through presence, through example. She is among us, and through her we can learn, grow, and unite. At that moment, Mara stepped forward. The alien crowd's lights pulsed with curiosity, awe, and some lingering doubt. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she let Lyra's words carry the weight. Then slowly she raised her hand in a gesture of respect. "I am not a hero," Mara said gently, her voice clear and calm. "I am a human who did what anyone would hope to do if they could. Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes, we falter, and sometimes we fail. But when we see others in danger, we act, we try, and trying can save lives." Her words were simple, but the effect was profound. The aliens' glow pulsed softly, some flickering with recognition, others with wonder. Mara's humility combined with her courage left a deep impression. Lyra stepped closer to Mara, her pulse flickering brightly. "See, that is why I admire humans. Not because they are perfect, but because they act when it matters most." Mara smiled faintly. "And now, Lyra, you can help others see that as well. Humans and aliens can work together, learn from each other, and protect one another. We do not need to be the same to be strong, we only need to care." The crowd began to murmur again, this time with excitement. Small aliens approached Mara, touching her hands gently in gratitude. Others began glowing in patterns that indicated hope and understanding. Slowly, the city's citizens began to see the humans differently. No longer were they fragile strangers. They were allies, protectors, and examples of courage that transcended worlds. Over the next days, Mara and Lyra worked side by side, leading teams of humans and aliens in reconstruction and education. Mara showed her methods, careful planning, clear communication, and the courage to act even in danger. Lyra demonstrated how her people could learn quickly, adapt, and combine their unique abilities with human ingenuity. The city transformed, not just in structure, but in spirit. Humans were no longer outsiders, they were partners. Aliens began training with humans, learning not only practical skills but lessons in courage, empathy, and cooperation. For the first time, the two species truly understood one another, creating bonds that had never existed before. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the newly stabilized city, Lyra approached Mara quietly. "Thank you," she said, her glow soft but bright. "Not just for saving me, but for showing us the way humans can inspire. My people will never forget this." Mara placed a hand lightly on Lyra's shoulder. "It is not just me," she said. "It is what all humans can do. You saw it firsthand. Now help others see it too." Lyra's glow pulsed with determination. She knew her people would spread this understanding, that the stories of human courage would travel across the city and beyond. And somewhere deep inside, she realized that the rescue, the admiration, and the lessons learned were only the beginning. The city of Arkan 9, once shattered by tremors and fear, now stood as a symbol of unity. Humans and aliens working together, rebuilding not just structures but trust, understanding, and hope. Mara Halloway had shown them that one life, one act of courage could change everything. And Lyra had ensured that everyone would remember. As the night deepened, Mara and Lyra stood together on a high platform overlooking the glowing city. The lights of the citizens pulsed in steady harmony, a silent testament to bravery, compassion, and the bonds forged in crisis. Mara turned to Lyra. "You see now," Mara said softly, "it is not the strength of a species that matters, but the courage of its hearts." Lyra's glow shone brilliantly. "Yes," she said, voice clear and melodic, "and your heart has changed my world." In that quiet moment, the two of them stood together, a human and an alien, united not just by survival, but by understanding, respect, and hope for the future. And the city, their city, pulsed with light, life, and the promise of a new era. An era where humans were no longer just strangers from a distant world, but heroes, allies, and inspiration for all.